Bonjour. This is a correction of a do now we had to do this week about question words, and it's also an introduction of our new lesson about question words. Okay, so today you had to translate questions you knew already, such as what is your name, how much is it, who is it, what is it, where are you? Okay, so all those questions you knew about them before. Now we're going to understand how you built a question in French and maybe learn more question words so that you can ask lots of questions in French. So, as we saw in class, there are at least two ways to ask a question in French. Okay, the first one, and I will refer to them as formulae. So the first formulae is you have your question word first, then you add this expression est-ce que, then you add your subject, and then your verb, and then the question mark. The second formulae is what we call an inversion, and you have to switch the verb and the subject. Okay, so you always start with a question word, then you add your verb, and then you add your subject. And that's what we call inversion, because you can see from Formula 1 to Formula 2, you need to switch the word around. And in the case of the inversion, you had to put a dash between the verb and the subject, and we'll see that a little bit later. So let's go back to the questions you knew already. So, what is your name? And as some of you noticed in class, it's not really the direct translation here. So in French, we say, comment t'appelles-tu? Okay? And the direct translation for this is, how are you called? Okay? Comment t'appelles-tu? Comment here is your question word, and it means how. Second sentence you knew already is, how much is it? Combien ça fait ou combien ça coûte. You could also use the first formula and say combien est-ce que ça fait ou est-ce que ça coûte. Third one, who is it? You knew that already. Qui est-ce? Okay, who is qui? What is it? Qu'est-ce que c'est? So here your question word is actually with an apostrophe because we have a contraction. Okay? Where are you? Où es-tu? Make sure that où you put an accent on it, otherwise the meaning is very different, and we're going to see that a little bit later. So, other question words, and this one I think you knew before. When is your birthday? You learned it as c'est quand ton anniversaire. But as you can see here, my question word is not in the first part of the sentence and neither at the end. So it's a bit like slang here. So if you want to be more formal, you would say quand est ton anniversaire. So you would use a question word first, then your verb, and then ton anniversaire, okay? And make sure you switch them around. Next question word you probably didn't know is, why do you like sport? Okay. Pourquoi aimes-tu le sport? And you answer with a why question by because, it is fun. Parce que, c'est amusant. So because, parce que. So for example, how would you translate where do you go with the two different formulae we've seen before? So first one, where is your question word? Où? Then you add est-ce que? Then you add your subject tu. And then you add your verb va, and don't forget the question mark. Donc, où est-ce que tu vas? That's your first formula. If you want to just use an inversion, you would say où vas-tu? And you put the hyphen in between. Donc, où vas-tu is exactly the same as où est-ce que tu vas. So, next slide, as I said, où with an accent is very different than où without an accent. Où with an accent is where, où without an accent is or. So make sure you spell these things correctly. The other question word, which is a bit tricky, is what, because what can be translated in different ways in French, okay? So what can be a question word, meaning que ou quoi, okay? Que fais-tu ou tu fais quoi? So that's a question word. But what can be also an interrogative adjective in French, and that's quel in feminine form, quel masculine plural, quel feminine plural, okay? So basically the rule is that if you can replace what by which in English, it is an interrogative adjective, okay? And you have to remember that it's always associated with a noun. That's why you will know when to use quel, because as you've seen it before, it will be associated with a noun. So, quelle heure est-il? Quelle heure? Go as a pair, go together. Quel temps fait-il? Quel goes with temps. Okay, so this is the adjective and this is a noun. So they always will go together as a pair, as an adjective and a noun. And you can see it as an adjective because it has to agree with a noun as well. Heure is feminine, quel has to be in the feminine form. Temps is masculine, it has to be written in the masculine form. So, en conclusion, sorry, I've made a spelling mistake here. En conclusion, you need to know all those question words. Où, where, quand, when, à quelle heure, at what time, comment, how, combien, how much, pourquoi, why, qui, who, and parce que is not a question word because it's a statement, but parce que, because. Okay? Interrogative expressions with qui, who, so à qui, to whom, de qui, about whom, avec qui, with whom, and pour qui, for whom. Okay, so it's not a lot to remember, but you need to really make sure you understand the meaning, and you also have to understand how to build a question in French, and we will practice. Okay, so I hope this presentation was very helpful for you. Make sure you watch it and you memorize the content. Au revoir.